Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's from Canto 2, Chapter 10, and this morning we're doing texts 27 and 28. So without further ado, we'll start the class. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Yashodanandana Prajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Prajajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari 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 Jaya Om Vishnu Pad Paramhansa Pri Vajracharya Stotra Sati Sisi Maharaj Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramhansa Pri Vajracharya Astotra Sati Sisi Maharaj Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem Sikho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sita Advaita Gadadha Shiva Shari Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Binda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari 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 Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Guru and Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Samati Bhakti Swami Namini Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Siddhartmani Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Iti Namani. Narayana Namaskritya Narunte Van Narotamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tatujayam Mujirayat Nashta Prayeswa Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamasloke Bhaktirvavati Naishtiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear Buddhists, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, The Cosmic Manifestation. Chapter 10, Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. This morning we're doing text 27 and 28. So I will chant through 27 and then you can join me at 28. Hare Krishna. Ussishrikshodatu malam Mirabidyata Vegudam Tata Payustato Mitra Utsarga Ubayashraya. Word for word translation. Ussishriksho, desiring to evacuate. Datu malam, refuse of eatables. Nirabidyata, became open. Very certainly. Gudam, the evacuating hole. Tata, thereafter. Payu, the evacuating sense organ. Tata, thereafter. Mitra, the controlling demigod. Utsarga, the substance evacuated. Ubhaya, both. Ashraya, shelter. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thereafter, when he desired to evacuate the refuse of eatables, the evacuating hole, anus, and the sensory organ thereof, developed along with the controlling deity Mitra. The sensory organ and the evacuating substance are both under the shelter of the controlling deity. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Even in the matter of evacuating stool, the refuse is controlled. So how can the living entity claim to be independent? Text 28. In this one, after I finish chanting, you can chant also. Ashrish Ripso Pura Yam Nabidvaram Apanatam Tatra Panastatu Mrityu Pritaktvam Ubayashrayam Ashiripso Pura Purya Navidvaram Apanata Tatra Panastatu Mrityu Pritaktvam Ubayashrayam Ashiripso Pura Purya Navidvaram Apanata Tatra Panastatu Mrityu Pritaktvam Ubayashrayam. Hare Krishna. Please chant.
आशिश्रप्सुः पुरः पूर्य नाभिद्वारम् अपानतः तत्रापानस्ततो मृत्युः पृथक्त्वम् उभयाश्रम्. हरे कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
आशिश्रक्षो पुरपुर्या नाभिद्वारम् अपानत तत्रापानस्ततो मृत्यु पृथक्त्वम् उभयाश्रयम्. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. आशीस्रोऽप्सो पुर्या नाभिद्वारम् अपानतः तत्रापानस्ततो मृत्युः पृथक्त्वम् उभयाश्रयम्. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? word for word. As a ship shore, desiring to go everywhere. Pura, in different bodies. Puriya, from one body. Dhabi Dwaram, the navel or abdominal hole. Apanata was manifested. Tatra, thereupon. Apana, stopping of the vital force. Tata, thereafter. Mrityu, death. Pritaktvam, separately. Ubhaya, both. Ashrayam, shelter. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thereafter, when he desired to move from one body to another, the navel and the air of departure and death were combinedly created. The navel is a shelter for both, namely death and the separating force. Purport. The pranavayu continues the life, and the apanavayu stops the living force. Both the vibrations are generated from the abdominal hole, the navel. This navel is the joint from one body to the other. Lord Brahma was born of the abdominal hole of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu as a separate body, and the same principle is followed even in the birth of any ordinary body. The body of a child develops from the body of the mother, and when the child is separated from the body of the mother, it is separated by cutting the navel joint. And that is the way the Supreme Lord manifested himself as separated many. The living entities are therefore separated parts, and thus they have no independence. Om Gnanati Mirandasya Gyana Gyana Shalakaya Chakshu Amritam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Danati Swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Picharini Nirvishesha Sunyavari Paschatyadi Sitarini. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gurachise Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Text 27, English translation. Thereafter, when he desired to evacuate the refuse of eatables, the evacuating hole, anus, and the sensory organ thereof developed, along with the controlling deity Mitra. The sensory organ and the evacuating substance are both under the shelter of the controlling deity. English translation of text 28. Thereafter, when he desired to move from one body to another, the navel and the air of departure and death were combinedly created. The navel is a shelter for both, namely death and the separating force. Hare Krishna. So these two texts, 27 and 28 of chapter 10 in Canto 2, are again the continuation of how bodies, physical bodies, came to be put together, especially this part, the senses. Now in text 28, the navel is also thrown in, and it's a very, very important part when it comes to the newborn, from the very, very beginning stages, being able to grow and being nourished. And that's through the navel, but that is in text 28, so we'll get to that a little later. 27, first of all, before we even go on with this, I made this point before, but I think it's necessary to kind of repeat it so people get things in the proper, devotees get things in the proper context. The Lord is desiring for these different things to happen as part of creation, especially the bodies that are going to experience whatever they want to experience in the material world. This is what's going on. The way things have been put sometimes because the stress is being given, the emphasis is being given on the Lord's desire. So many texts, even before these two, they all start with when the Lord desires, when the Lord Vishnu desired to do such, then the part of the body which we use now became manifest along with the controlling deity for that particular part. And when we say the controlling deity, we usually referring to demigods that have been assigned the control of that particular part of the body. The Lord is desiring to, so we should give we should be aware of the difference between the desire of the Lord and the Lord himself. Because sometimes it may come across like the Lord's parts are being developed. And that's funny because the Lord existed forever. When the Lord was there, it's not like now his organs are coming out. No, it's the desire and our organs are being formed in that sense. So that is one thing that you got to be aware of. And the first time we brought it up, we brought up the point that there is a deity, a demigod, that has been given control. Now, how in the world would a demigod be given control of any part of the Lord's body? It's out of the question. Out of the question. The demigods don't control the Lord's body. So it's not about the Lord's body. It's about our body, but it's phrased this way. So we need to have that understanding that the physical body is being formed based on the Lord's desire. That's the bottom line. And the physical body, yes, there is an anus. And so how that came, it came from the Lord's desire. Another way to look at it is that we are also connected with the Lord. We are part of the superior energy, but the physical body is part of the inferior energy. But when you talk about the superior energy, we are told we are parts and parcels of the Lord. So there is a connection. That's there. At the spiritual level, the connection is always there. The soul and the supreme soul, the Lord himself. The physical body now, because it's about creation, this part is about creation. The part of the Srimad Bhagavatam is about creation. And Srimad Bhagavatam doesn't miss anything. In fact, this chapter brings out the point. The title of the chapter is Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. So if we have parts of the body, then the Lord's desire, from the Lord's desire, those are coming. All the parts of the body are formed, bottom line, all the parts of the body are formed based on desire of the Lord. The body, though, the physical body. So in this one, the evacuating organs, the evacuating organ, I shouldn't say the organs. So from the desire of the Lord, that was formed. And that's the first one in text 27. We eat, there is refuse that's formed, some things that are rejected. And the ones that are rejected go through the large intestine, and I'm talking about the physical body of humans, the large intestine, and then out through the rectum. And this whole point about that part of the body is controlled by, or given control by the Lord for that deity called Mitra, the demigod, direct supervision. In practically everything involving material creation, Krishna has expanded himself into Lord Vishnu, and then through Lord Vishnu, Brahma, and then Brahma has given rise to these demigods from him, And then these demigods are being given control over all aspects of the material world, including the material bodies too, parts of the material bodies. So everything is done in such detail. And the control is split very much into small aspects, every organ, and what it does, there is some control indeed. So then Srila Prabhupada makes the point, even in the matter of evacuating stool, which of course people don't like to talk about so much, but Srimad Bhagavatam just addresses everything. So that shouldn't surprise anybody. Why is Srimad Bhagavatam talking about evacuation part? Well, it is part of the way the physical body operates. The physical body operates by having eyes to see. So if the physical body has an anus, what it does, of course, Bhagavatam will talk about it. But Srila Prabhupada's point here is about independence. Nobody can claim to be independent because even the part that we don't like to talk too much or people are even embarrassed about, still, there is control. Right up to the deity that has been given control of that, or the demigod's been given control of that. So Srila Prabhupada's point is, how can the living entity claim to be independent? Everything came by the desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. So in text 28, thereafter, when he desired to move from one body to another, again, based on what we do, we move from one body to another. If we don't make it back to Godhead, we're going from this body to another body. And there are 8,400,000 types of bodies, some with high intelligence and some with very little intelligence. Depending on the way we lived our lives and our desires, which are also taken into consideration, the material desires, then another body is given. A person that doesn't take bhakti seriously enough to earn the mercy of the Lord and go back goes to another body. Or a person who is ignorant about spirituality automatically goes to the next body. So that is our situation. The Lord in the creative mood means that he's going to desire some things to happen. And this time we're talking about one body to another. And the navel and the air of departure and death were combinedly created. So to move from one body to another, the navel connects the next body that's to be formed with the parent, especially the mother of that body. What we call the umbilical cord connects the navel to the next body that's being formed in the womb for the period of time that it takes for the body, that new body, to form completely. And then, of course, there is birth. So the navel and the air of departure. Air of departure is when it comes to death. The air of departure, that's where that plays the role. So the death situation and the next body being formed, that's what's discussed in this particular section. The navel is the one that supplies the nutrients for the next body that's being formed. But before that, the air of departure and the process itself, death, that came to being. You were combinedly created. So, the air of departure, Srila Prabhupada talks about prana, the life air, prana vayu. It continues the life, and the apana vayu stops the living force. Actually, they are more than and you go more into the scriptures, you see the different types of vayu, the different types of air described. If we have time, we'll probably get to it. In some places, 5 main ones are described. Here is 2 that Srila Prabhupada talked about, pranavayu and apanavayu. Pranavayu actually goes up, giving life. Apanavayu goes down, and it stops the living force, the soul. Living force means the soul from being in that body. That means it's going to go into the next life. So Prabhupada is saying that both values are generated from the navel. So that's extra information for us. That's where they generated. And the navel is the joint from one body to the other that we've already talked about. Prabhupada gives the example of how Lord Brahma was born. Lord Brahma was born from the lotus flower, but the lotus flower came from the navel of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. The navel of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, the navel of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, sprouted a lotus flower. The stem was there, and then the top of the lotus flower was where Lord Brahma was born. And in fact, in his life, he still has connection with that lotus flower of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. That is explained in Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Even when it comes to Lord Brahma's retiring for the night, still there's a connection with that lotus flower. We've talked about it before, so we won't get into great detail now. So, yes, the same principle of the birth of ordinary body, the navel plays a role there too. So it is connected with the child until the child is born. And when the child is born, those who know about childbirth, the navel is not still connected. And the placenta, the one that gives the nutrients, the navel is the tube. I mean, the umbilical cord is the tube, and it's connected to the navel of a child. And then the nutrients is given that way. So when the child is fully formed and is born, then the navel is actually separated. You cut the navel joint. And now there's a separate body with a separate soul. So Srila Prabhupada ends the purport by saying that that's the way the Supreme Lord manifested himself as separated many through the navel, the function of that. So the Supreme Lord manifested himself as many. That again is consistent with the other part of the Shastra that talks about the Lord is supreme, who has in fact manifested himself into separate many. And many, that's us, the living entities, not only humans. Humans only form about a little less than 5% of all types of bodies that are there. There are 8,400,000 types of bodies, and I apologize if it gets too technical, but I don't see any other way to explain it. There's and Srila Prabhupada, when he talks about 8,400,000, he breaks it down. Those that are in the water, the aquatics, 900,000 of them in the whole material creation, and not just this particular universe, but whole creation. Different types of entities in the water, ocean, river, lakes, whatever. 900,000. Then for plants and trees, there are 2 million types in the whole universe, and the whole set of universes in the material world. Then insects and reptiles, 1,100,000 different types. Then the birds, 1 million. And then the animals, 3 million. But if you add those up, that makes 8 million different types of physical bodies. And then 400,000 type human bodies. That includes angels. That includes, and I've started deliberately talking about angels. I know the Buddhists don't mention angels so much. They mention more of the different types of angels based on what they do. The Apsaras, the Viharas, and so we have specific ones. Those that are expert musicians, those who are singers, those who are dancers, they're all in different categories in the heavenly planets. They are all part of the 400,000 that's been described as human, including what we've even got to know in different planets as aliens and all. They all part of the human 400,000. Now, the intelligence of the 400,000 is higher than the intelligence of the other 8 million. So the human body has been described as the escape body. There is enough intelligence to be able to understand the Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, our relationship with Him, the importance of loving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and finally, leaving this material world we are and going back home to the spiritual world. That's in just the 400,000. Now, if you divide 400,000 by 8,400,000 to find out what the fraction is between, or the percentage between us as the human body type, 400,000, and compared to all of the others, you'll get a number that's very small. In percentage, it's about 4.7, almost 4.8, thereabouts. It's not even 5%. Now, 5% is 1/20th. If you divide something into 20 parts and take one, 20 equal parts and take one, that's 5%. To all of these other bodies, 19 out of 20, if you make 20 the base, the 19 out of 20 are the types that you cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The aquatic type bodies, the trees, the insects and reptiles, the birds and the animals. They do not understand God. They can't chant the Hare Krishna mantra. They can't go back to Godhead. So if that percentage is there, less than 5% for the human type, how important it is. It should actually strike us in our minds and in our intelligence that we are in a body that allows us to go back to Godhead. We are in a body that allows us to understand the situation here. And we have examples, situation here in the material world. And we have examples, our own lives and lives of those who are close to us, lives of those that we associate with. It is very obvious that trials come, disturbances happen here in this world from the weather, from other living entities that are not advanced enough to understand what human nature is supposed to be, and our own minds that sometimes give us depression, sometimes give us fear, fear for the different things that are also associated with this material world that we live in. So when anyone comes and tells you there's a way out to get you away from this sorry state that we're in, and we're just trying hard to make it manageable, so we can be a little happy because we've succeeded in managing some aspect of the material world. When somebody tells you that, that person is really your well-wisher. So the whole parampara, the disciplic succession, the ascended masters, down to Srila Prabhupada, who's also ascended, but lately, as late as 1977, November he left. So that's not been very long ago compared to millions of years that the material world has been in existence. It's just recently left. And he's left a wealth of information to ultimately have us understand who we are, who Krishna is, the relationship that we should have with them, and then go back. Get an opportunity to go back, to leave this material world and go back. That is our greatest well-wisher. Nobody loves anyone more than the person who saves a person from really catastrophic situation, whether they know it or not. And many people, we say whether they know it or not, because many people are thinking that in this material world, we have to try hard to make life enjoyable for us. But the material world is designed not to have us enjoy it. No jail is designed to have the inmates have a great time. It doesn't work like that. But because there's also illusion, there's the covering by Maya that makes people think that, oh, we are here. There's so many things that we can do. Therefore, there's so many things that we can come up with, or so many strategies that we can embark on, and that would give us the satisfaction and happiness that we want. There was one radio talk show host. He's left the body now, succumbed to cancer. He was quite straightforward in answering his questions. He was very, very wealthy. The contract that he had with his radio show was very popular, and millions would hear him Monday through Friday from 12 noon to 3 in the afternoon. And it was also a radio talk show that somebody could call in. People could call in and give a little bit of time for people to call in. And they were calling. And one person finally asked a question. He was talking about politics of America. One person asked him the question, so we know the contract you got, it's hundreds of millions of dollars, that kind of contract. So you obviously are wealthy. So are you happy because you're wealthy? And as I said earlier, he answers questions in a very straightforward way. He said, yes, money, not yes, I'm happy. Money can buy whatever I want, whatever I want. I have enough money to buy whatever I want, but I cannot buy happiness with the money. So it doesn't work like that. So all of these different parts that through the Lord Vishnu, the human body has developed is supposed to help us to go back to Godhead. It is going to be it is always a difficult situation in the material world. Even in the heavenly planets, there's difficulties. The difficulties don't escape anywhere in the material world. So we got to be, as humans, always aware of the fact that we are in one sense, we are fortunate to be in this type of body, which can take us out of the material world to the spiritual world if we take it seriously. So back to the life airs. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 17, a part of the purport about the life air. We'll talk now about the life air and its interface, for lack of a better word, with the soul. We are the soul. We just have these physical bodies, and the development of the different organs is what sensory organs is what this part of Bhagavatam is describing. So in Mundaka Upanishad, it's been described, and that has been quoted in, the part of it has been quoted in Bhagavad Gita. Eso no atma chetasa veditavyo yasmin prana panchada samvivesha. Pranayashchitam sarvam otam prajanam yasmin vishude vibhatisha atma. The soul is atomic in size and can be perceived by perfect intelligence. This atomic soul, very small, is floating in 5 kinds of air. Shipapa talked about prana vayu. Air means vayu, or vayu means air. Prana vayu, apana vayu. Then there's 3 more: vyana vayu, samana vayu, and udana vayu. The soul is situated within the heart area, and it spreads its influence all over the body. That's why it's called living force. The soul, because of the soul's presence in the heart area, there is consciousness. Consciousness is from the soul. And the consciousness is pervading, covering all of the physical body. So then the organs move where they're supposed to do their work, each one of them. So Srila Prabhupada does make a point, though, that when the soul is purified from the contamination of the 5 kinds of material air, then its spiritual influence is exhibited. Okay. That one we can chew on it for a while. But this is basically, again, not everything is known by us. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada gives us direct information like that. To basically, all we have to do is accept it. Now, one important point that he made, because we know this, that connects to us, Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga, holding different poses with the physical body to control the kinds of air. He said, Hatha Yoga system is meant for controlling these 5 kinds of air encircling the pure soul by different kinds of sitting postures. It's not for any material profit, but for the liberation of the minute soul ultimately from the entanglement of material atmosphere. Of course, the topmost of yoga is Bhakti Yoga. Liberation is there, but going back to Godhead is the most important. We can have mental liberation when a person disconnects from the material world as a principle of life, the way they live, then they are mentally liberated. But when they leave the body, then of course, we're going back to the spiritual world then because of their mindset. So Hatha Yoga is meant for controlling 5 kinds of air. The 5 kinds of air, what do? Well, that's in the purport, part of the purport of Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, text 27. Srila Prabhupada goes into detail about, a little more detail about that. The senses interact with the sense objects. So the ear is for hearing, the eyes are for seeing, the nose is for smelling, the tongue is for tasting, the hand and different parts of the physical body, the external part, that's for touching. And yeah, the hand particularly is for touching, but then also we have sensations on different parts of the skin. So sometimes the skin is for touching. It's done like that. So all of them are engaged in activities outside of the soul, outside of the self. So those are the functions of the pranavayu. The pranavayu goes up, death time. Apanavayu goes downwards. The Vyanavayu is to shrink and to expand. So that's the vayu that is responsible for that. Our equilibrium is adjusted by the Samana Vayu, and the Udana Vayu goes upwards. And that's how Srila Prabhupada describes it. And when a person becomes enlightened, then all of these Vayus are engaged for self-realization. Srila Prabhupada has given us a shortcut. When we involve, whether we involve in Hatha Yoga or not, the exercises, we still have been given the mercy of connecting without even knowing about these different airs, life airs, by just simply chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. There is a lot about the physical body and things around in the material world that connect to the physical body. There's a lot that we don't know. So Srila Prabhupada just tells us every now and then some things and how they relate to us. And he spends some time talking now about the Samana Vayu adjusting equilibrium, Udana Vayu going upwards, and so is Prana Vayu upwards, and the Vyana Vayu causing the shrinking and expansion. And there's so many things that happen, not just, don't think in terms of just weight being a little smaller and then later on putting on weight. No, there are things in the body that shrink and expand. The lungs are for one. Breathing in, breathing out, there's expansion, contraction that's going on. That's controlled by the Vyana Vayu. Like that. So, Srila Prabhupada in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 15, Text 42. Again, he talks about the life air. The life air is the energy for all of a living being's activities. The life air is the energy for all of a living being's activities. That's why we describe the 5 kinds. Actually, there are 10, but 5 main ones are described here. The living beings' activities are sometimes on the mode of passion, or mode of ignorance, which is irreligious, or mode of goodness, which is religious. When a living entity decides to go back home, back to Godhead, then his target is Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, in the conditioned state of life, one does not understand that the goal of life is the Supreme Lord. In Bhagavatam 7.5.31, Srila Prabhupada quotes it a lot. Nate vidu swata gatim hi Vishnu, durasaya ye bahi arna manina. People don't understand that the aim of life is to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So a living entity tries to be happy within the material world, but they don't know the target of his life. But when he gets purified, however, then he gives up this bodily conception of life and his false ego or false identity as belonging to a certain community, a certain nation, a certain society, a certain family, and so on. Then the rest is Hishikesha, Hishikena, Hishikesha, Sevanam Bhakti Uchate. Madhya Leela, Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 19, text 170. So when a person decides to go, then just like you are listening because you want to go back to Godhead. So with the help of the spiritual master, they aim the life towards going back home. And the mercy of the spiritual master as a representative of Krishna and also the guide for the living entity now throws himself mentally towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, in our next life, in general, when a person is leaving and they've been in a mode of goodness, they will be given a chance to go to the heavenly planets. When they've acted in the mode of passion, then the medium type planetary systems like the Earth, they have a good chance of coming to those. The earthly planets. We say the Earth, well, that's Earth based on this particular universe. But every universe has an earthly type planet there, medium planet, every universe. And of course, if a person is acting in the mode of ignorance, they'll go to the hellish planets. And I'll spend a little time talking about the hellish planets. In this universe, they are below the 14 planetary systems, below that. Now, what happens there? Well, that is fairly common knowledge. General knowledge is known. There's all kinds of severe punishments that go on there. Punishment is for rectification. Somebody's done something wrong, they get punished by it. If the Lord was to punish someone who has done wrong for a particular lifetime, and they've died, and the physical body, that's of course buried, cremated, or whatever, the subtle body experiences this, taking on the hellish type, body suitable for the punishment. Punishment, again, we'll say it again, is for rectification. We all know that experience that when there's punishment, it goes on for a while and then it stops. The hellish planet, the point we're making is that from some religions, they're saying, and it's become a popular understanding or a popular acceptance, not even understanding because it's not right. Popular acceptance that one goes to hell and stays there forever. How in the world would God punish anyone forever when they did not do bad deeds or sin forever? Nobody sins forever. So it's not even just for the Lord to punish someone forever when they don't sin forever. How do we know that nobody sins forever? Well, at some point they die. A dead body cannot sin. So if every day the person is living, they live life in a wrong way, doing sinful activities, There will come a time that they will leave the body, and that's the end of their sinful activities. Therefore, Yamaraj, the superintendent of death, always has a finite number, no matter how many the number of sins are. There's a finite number of sins. And so the Lord will, in fact, through Yamaraj, designate a finite number of types of punishment for that particular soul in the hellish planet, in the appropriate hellish planet. So the hellish planets are actually places that a person goes for a period of time, but nobody should be feeling that this statement is, oh, okay, well, so it's not forever, but it's for a period of time. Therefore, it's not as bad. It's very bad. It's very, very, very bad because the intensity of the punishments are very, 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 very severe. There is just like we come to this material world here, in this body, we have a physical body, and then, of course, a subtle body also. So when the subtle body enters the different type of hellish planets for another life, there is a type of body for hellish planets also, just like there is a type of body for heavenly planets. Angelic type bodies are there. But there's also that for the hellish planets. And His Holiness Radha Govinda Maharaj, there are some disciples by His mercy in the Harrisburg group here, Yatra. Radha Govinda Maharaj, in one lecture that I heard, he described to give people hearing the sense of doing everything they can to stay away from going to a hellish planet. It's actually a lot worse, although the period of time is specific. But what happens there is absolutely, absolutely horrendous in terms of the type of punishment. So Radha Govinda Maharaj explained that the type of body given to the subtle body in the hellish planet gives pain that's 100 times more severe than the pain that we give that happens to our physical body, the ones that we have now. In other words, if somebody get pinched, or even somebody pinches themselves, and that pain that they get from pinching themselves, if they pinch themselves the same intensity in a hellish body, they're going to experience the pain 100 times more than what they'll experience in this physical body that we have now. Now, who in their right mind is going to want to go to a hellish planet then, even though it is for a period of time? But yes, punishment is not forever. If the Lord actually punished everybody in hellish planets forever, then that would make him so unfair because nobody sins forever. Therefore, punishment should not be like that. So then what happens? Do people get out of hellish planets? Absolutely. The question is yes, but there's more. After that, the next part of the disturbance to the soul is it goes into a non-human body, one of the 8 million types of non-human bodies for next life. So the human body is not so easy to get. We're making all of this point to tell us that once we're in this human body, Krishna consciousness should be taken very, very seriously. Krishna consciousness is set up now in this society, giving all kinds of breaks. We're supposed to chant this Vaishnava 64 rounds. But Srila Prabhupada has gotten the mercy of Krishna, being a close associate to Krishna, of us doing a minimum of 16 rounds and still getting the opportunity to go back home, back to Godhead. That is the mercy of a spiritual master. We have the physical body, and we have that opportunity also to be given breaks left and right, many, many, many ways, especially the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. So we got to take things seriously. Yes, these bodies have been given to us, and the Bhagavatam is describing the different parts of the bodies, and the demigods that control them. But the whole point is everything should be done to serve the Lord and to serve the devotees and serve the spiritual master so we get to go home next life, not even to the heavenly planets, because that's enjoyment, sense gratification for a long period of time, but it also ends. Nothing in the material world is forever. Nothing. Mm. So even in the heavenly planets, people think they're going to enjoy forever. They enjoy a long time. It seems like they'll be there for a long time. It seems like it's forever, but it's not. Again, those in the heavenly planets also have to come down to this medium planet and try again. To react in the mode of ignorance, you go to the hellish planets and then get a non-human birth life, next life. Sometimes, based on a person's desire, they go straight into a non-human type body. They're attached to a particular animal. Mm-hmm. And they die thinking of that animal. Then, well, they get birth in that animal's body, that type of body. So we have to be careful. We have to be determined, and we also have to be careful in our lives. Stay Krishna conscious. Do everything the spiritual master says to do. Don't offend anyone, because if you're offended in everything, it's like offense is like self-sabotage. You offend someone, and then automatically you can't go back to Godhead. And the reason is, it doesn't matter how many rounds you've chanted, and even obeying the four regulative principles. If you offend someone, it is assumed then correctly that you're going to be offending someone when you go back to Godhead, because that's the way you are. And Godhead, when in the spiritual world, is not about going there to criticize, gossip, do offenses, and so on. It's not allowed there. They don't live like that. They live purely. So then we won't be allowed back. So we have to be careful not to offend, not to make anybody unhappy. To make anyone unhappy, you come up with dishonest statements and so on. A bell should go up in your head. Danger, 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 danger. Danger of not getting a chance to go back home. Sabotaging the chance to go back home. So yes, as Bhagavatam explains the different senses, it's all from the desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then the sense gets established, and then the demigod to control that particular sense is also given the responsibility. That's the way things are set up. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So thank you very much for coming on to here. Allow me to do this service of preaching through the help of my spiritual master and Srila Prabhupada. This is time to unmute yourself. You have questions, you have comments. This is the time to do that. Dear Krishna Prabhu, see you raise your electronic hand. Please go ahead. Accept my humble
Hare
obeisance.
Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for wonderful, wonderful reminders and points. When you were mentioning about towards the end about the long duration of life in heavenly planets, but eventually it all goes away. I was just thinking that although it is a long duration of time, but like we experience in this material world, when we have a lot of happiness, it just flies away in a moment. So even though it may look like thousands of years in the heavenly planets, it will just pass away.
Yeah,
For
it'll
one
go
who,
away.
yeah. So actually, it is not so long from the consciousness point of view.
Yeah.
And second thing is, yeah, thank you for reminding about the offenses. Because of bad associations with things, with people, we end up making so many offenses, and that's big obstruction to our lives.
Yeah.
One question I have, Prabhu, is like you were also mentioning, Srila Prabhupada also mentioned so many times that we all try to identify with this body, certain nations, certain communities, but this is actually a false ego. It is a false understanding. And so many times, whenever some families move to towns, we hear, oh, I'm looking for a certain community to be part of. I want to make
Yeah.
sure that community is there. So and I think even after becoming devotees, we come succumb to that kind of understanding. But Srila
Yeah.
Prabhupada didn't name ISKCON as International Society of Certain Community, Christians or Hindus or Muslims. He maintained International Society of Krishna Consciousness, and this is the birthright of each and every living entity. So I'm just trying to understand how to help others change that consciousness, because no matter what we try to identify with certain kind of tribe or community or group, we don't feel that we are a universal living entity.
Well, good question. Good question. Um, the identification of ourselves should be that we belong to Lord Chaitanya's movement. We will try to identify with something, just like you explained, and you're correct to explain it that way. There's a tendency to people to want to be designating something, oh, I'm involved in this. So it's not even a question of fighting the designation, but it's a question of choosing the designation that is right and also universal for the whole world, for the whole material world, practically, even though we're in just one planet. And that is just be a person who is part of Lord Chaitanya's movement. That's all. I get asked sometimes, people ask me, I go to even some of my medical appointments and talking with the nurses, we just talk about social things and briefly, while they're doing whatever they're doing, taking blood pressure and so on. And then they ask my background. And I'm always happy when they ask my background because I'm very, very, very much ready to talk to them about, not necessarily preach, but I would ask, especially if the person is older, like the nurse is an old person, maybe in the 50s and so on, then I know that, somewhere in the 80s, and so they knew something. In 1980s, they knew something was going on in this world, in this country. So then I asked, have you heard about the Hare Krishnas? If the older person says yes, then I said, I am a Hare Krishna. That's how I identify myself. But Hare Krishna is what the Lord Chaitanya, wanted us to be about, chanting. So just to say I'm a Hare Krishna, then I'm in that movement of Lord Chaitanya. When somebody is not aware of that because they're younger and they ask my background, then I will begin I don't mention Hindu because as soon as I mention Hindu, they're going to think about demigods and somebody may know there are 30 million demigods and you're just worshiping all of this, and on and on and on and on, they go on like that. So personally, I separate Hinduism from Lord Chaitanya's movement, specifically Lord Chaitanya's movement. The Hare Krishna headquarters is in Mayapur in India for a reason. That's where Lord Chaitanya was based. When he started there. So yes, I'm happy to have the designation of being a Hare Krishna or a member of Lord Chaitanya's movement. And if you say I'm a member of Lord Chaitanya movement, you're going to go, what's that? Then you get a chance to explain who Lord Chaitanya is, what he did when he came to this world. And with that broad description, then the person would have a good sense of who we are, a good sense, as the Lord allows that person to be able to reason through what he or she hears. So I don't stay away from designations, but especially my designation is we belong to Lord Chaitanya's movement. That's it. That's the way I look at it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for beautifully explaining it.
Krishna's mercy, Guru's mercy.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other comments, questions? We're a little bit past the hour, but any final comments or questions? If not, and again, thank you very much. This is the weekend. Please go to the temple nearest you sometime the weekend. We have a program. ISKCON temples have afternoon programs on Sundays. Make sure the closest ones to you attend it and associate with devotees, because that's very much important for our growth. They remind us about Krishna. We chant the holy name of the Lord together in Kirtan, and that causes us to still develop our love, jumpstart our love. So many ways that helps us. Thank you, dear Krishna Prabhu. I read your text. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhischa kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Shri Prabhupada ki jai.